Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of June 13th, 2011. Thank you for being at the site and thank you for supporting the site. The Ask Videomail is your chance to get your question in character animation or performance answered on video just like this one. So if you haven't asked a question yet, it's the best way to get the most value out of the site, so please do so soon. The address to send your questions to is webmaster@kennyroy.com, and I promise I read them all and I answer the ones I think will help the most people. So please do that soon if you haven't already. Let's get right to the question. It's a really good one. So, dirtying up your keys. I know you've heard this, and maybe some of you do this already. What dirtying up your keys basically is acknowledging and applying the fact that in nature, absolutely nothing works totally perfectly. Nothing moves perfectly straight or on a perfect arc, or without a little bit of variation, or a little, just a breath, just a feeling. Sometimes it's so small you can't even see it, but just like that feeling that it's not perfectly mechanical, right? So simply put, it's the visual difference between a machine that has like a hammer hammering and me hammering right now. There's just that undetectable, but just like a feeling. You can't see it, but you can feel that this is a human hammering. Whereas a machine, I'm not sure even how to possibly do it, right? Because I'm not a machine. Now, how do you accomplish this? Do you just literally go in and dirty up all your keys? Just apply a little bit of like wiggling and mess it up a little bit across the entire animation? If you do that, you're not really truly acknowledging what makes those things happen, okay? And the best way to dirty up your keys is always to acknowledge what is dirtying it up, because then you can pick a good size for it. Maybe it's going to be a little bit of up and down motion if someone's reaching, okay? Is their hand moving just a little bit up and down because they are nervous? Or is it because their arm is tired? Or maybe they're an old person and they have just like shaky hands? Or maybe they're breathing, okay? Breathing actually can account for a lot of the dirtying up of your keys that you can just put in arbitrarily in a dialogue shot. I love that. Love. So you can try that out and you can just do that. So a character is giving a speech and you can just have a little bit of a rotation. If you have like a scale or a puff like on the chest, and then just a little bit on the head as they're talking. Just get that little bit of hitch, when there's a breath taken. Even if you don't hear it in a dialogue, you can always visually make it seem like there was a breath by moving it. In fact, there was this YouTube video that was posted once that is this interesting phenomenon that we can't hear the difference between fa, like F-A, and ba, B-A. If we're looking at, or I'm sorry, we can't see the difference between ba and fa unless we are. I'm getting this wrong. One more try. I promise I'll get it right this time. If we're looking at either ba or fa, like a piece of video, you can put the sound ba or fa, and your brain will just connect it together and it'll think that the one you're hearing is the one you're seeing. And it does that for a couple of other phonemes, and it does it visually all across the board. So a breath is you can always put in a little bit of breathing in your dialogue, even if the actor wasn't like actually breathing into the microphone, and it looks great. In fact, one of the things that when I was at ILM, when I was apprenticing there, one of the things my mentor told me was that the coolest thing and like the most fun you have is when you've gotten to the end of polish and then you can just make your characters breathe. She said that was the coolest thing. So, you know, you do this whole big scene with the characters running through and bouncing, whatever it is. And then, if you're lucky, you have enough time to make your character breathe. And she thought it was the coolest thing. So that's really the first rule. The first rule is that it has to be at the very end of polish. Because normally if you're doing this, you're adding enough keys that it's really locking your animation into place. Otherwise, you can actually put them on new animation layers, which is an interesting way to work. I'm going to do it here in this scene, and just show you how to do that. And then you can always dial it down, or you can make a change to the quote unquote finished animation without having to delete or remove or otherwise contend with all these keys that are piling up. So that's the first rule. And then the second rule, again, is to take your cues from what you are, from what in nature is creating that little bit of variation, making it so it's not a perfect smooth arc. All right. So yeah, and if you look, the best animation has a ton of this. This goes hand in hand. I want to do just a little aside, just a little tangent, but I think you'll appreciate it because it goes actually, this is far-reaching concept actually in animation, which is we tend to, as animators, for instance, like a walk cycle, when we have someone come in a room and look around and then go to the door. We tend to have them come in on a walk cycle and stop their foot, like boom, here's one cycle of the walk, and then they bring their foot up to it. No like little stutter steps, no small steps or even shuffling or dragging of the feet. Very, very little dragging of feet or shuffling in animation. But if you really pay attention, especially like if you're standing in line, look at the feet of all the people around you when you're standing in line. They're constantly shifting weight and they're barely lifting their feet. They're basically sliding their feet all over the place. Check it out. And then when you have your character walk out the door, what happens? You have, you just like pop into this big, wide-stepped walk cycle. You don't have them take a small step and then like a dragging step and then a bigger and bigger and then up to speed out the door, right? So where you can go very far with this, or where I like to encourage people to go with this concept, is that arbitrarily dirtying up your keys is part of a larger concept of always having your animation basically never be perfect, ever. Never have it be exactly 8 perfect walk cycle steps from the door to the door. You understand? Always have it be like, 7 1/4 steps. So you're going to take 6 full steps and then 2 little stutters and then you get to the door. Does that make sense? Never have your character, if they're going to jump up onto a ledge, never make them jump, quite high enough. Have them have just a little bit of like maybe a little bicycling of those hands so that they really have to reach out and then overstretch and something goes a little bit wrong. When something goes just a little bit wrong with the animation, it always looks so fantastic, okay? So this is all ties into just a little bit of a broader concept in terms of doing your animation, but dirtying up your keys is a big part of this. So I have a very simple scene. This is actually from the Contact lecture, and it's just a pendulum hitting a box out of the way, okay? And what you'll notice is that the box, when it gets hit, let's go down here. You'll notice that the box, when it's hit, bunk, slides absolutely perfectly like it's on ice. So what I would do is, if this scene was approved and it looks like my pivot point has been placed on the corner here, I would actually do just a little bit of what I would call like rattling on this. And why am I doing this? It's always a good idea to have the idea behind why you're dirtying up your keys before you start. So I'm going to say, all right, this is not a block of ice on a sheet of ice. There's going to be friction. There's going to be just a little bit of variation. So that's why I'm going to put this in. Okay. So how would I do that? Probably the best way to start is, because we have all of this animation on this geometry to begin with, I'd probably group it and then move the group's pivot point back to that corner, and then group again and move this group's pivot point to that corner. Now I have a group that can rotate it from this side of the box, and if I step down the hierarchy, I have one that can rotate it from this side of the box. And then what I do in the outliner is I would just grab these two groups, and in the animation layers tab in the channel box, I would add these two. If you just click on this, it'll create a layer with the selected objects in the layer. Okay, so now I have, and we could rename this, instead of anim layer 1, let's call it rattling. Okay, and the animation plays just like normal still. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this control. It's not moving with the box, but that doesn't matter, because the box is not going to leave the ground. It's just going to rotate from a point that's on the ground right now. Okay, so I'm going to just, on the frame that gets hit, I'm just going to rotate it up just a little bit, and then 3 frames forward, I'm just going to rotate it down back to 0. In fact, I could probably just hit 0 here. Yep. And it's basically bouncing. Oops. I'm just going to key it again right here. And okay, so now as it gets hit forward, there's just a little bit, see it right there? See just a little bit of sky that's coming out from underneath there. Boom. Okay, now I'm just going to grab that group that was on top of it. I'm going to control select the group underneath so I know when to key it. So I'm going to key it in frame 17. I'm going to have it rotate the other way. All right, and now it needs to be down by, it looks like, frame 22. Let's go boom, like that. And now, just because I know what this curve is supposed to look like in the end, they all need to be fast in. Have a very plateaued center here. Let's see, free those tangent weights. Like that. Let's also break this one. Make it a little bit more plateaued, just like that, okay? And then on this one, this is the first group. It went over to this side twice, which is okay, which is what I was looking for. I'm gonna break these tangent handles. It's gonna make this a nice plateaued top to this rotation arc. And then this one probably should be centered like that. And let's do the same thing, fast in, and fast out of the rest pose, and fast into the rest pose. Okay. So now I'm just going to frame through it the first time. Now if we frame through, boink. See that little bit? Make it a little bit easier to see. Here we go. Okay. That little bit of wiggle or rattle on the right side. Boom. It lands on the left, and then boink. Lands like that. Now that all happens over like 17 frames. Let's watch it at speed. Oh, Oh, it's so cool. One more time. Oh, so good. Let's watch it at a little bit of an angle, because you're probably going to be seeing this at an angle. You're not going to be looking right down the pipe. You're going to see it at an angle. So let's see what it looks like to an audience. It's awesome. It's awesome. Okay. So basically 2 rules. Number 1, always do this after polish. Always. If you need a little bit of this, you know, slipping, bumping, hitching, catching, just that little bit of dirtiness in your keys, breathing. If they're, you know, just ran a mile, then they're going to be reaching, you know, like this. They're not going to be reaching smoothly. All these things, and that ties into the number 2 rule, which is center it in a real world, a physical, a natural phenomenon that's making your keys dirty. Don't arbitrarily make everything wiggle and bump and hitch and catch and slow and fast and all that. Make it centered in a phenomenon that's happening to your character. Okay, that was a great question. Really, really good. Keep on posting your animations in the forum and keep on encouraging each other. The best way to learn animation is to teach animation. So if you have any free time, great way to learn animation better is to spend some time in the forums and critique each other and help each other out. Don't forget to send in your questions. If you want your question asked or answered on video, then you need to send it. So send it to webmaster@kennyroy.com, and I will look through the questions and answer the ones I think will help the most people. And I hope to see your questions on here soon. All right, that'll do it. Thanks a lot for watching. Good luck with your animation, and as always, rock on.